G'day friends, it's Andrew here from Nature's Image Photography, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the FIVERAY M20C RGB Fill Light from Zhiyun. That's a bit of a mouthful. I'm going to start the video by well, letting you see my face just in normal natural light, and then wait 1 second. And there you go, now I feel a little bit more illuminated. So in this video I'm going to be showing you what you get inside this box. I'll be showing you a bit about the operation and showing you some photographs of some samples of the sort of photography I've been doing using the light over the last few weeks. Before I do that, I do want to address, I guess, a little bit of my philosophy about doing reviews like this. I get offered products maybe 2 or 3 times a month to review, and 9 times out of 10 I'll say no. I think if it's a product that I'm not really going to use in my general photography, what good really is a review from me? And it's not really fair on my subscribers to talk about a product and say how good it is, only to deep down know I'm never really going to use it. But this is something I really will be using, in particular I think for some macro photography and some portrait photography. So I'm having given it a good little test. I'm pretty happy that I'll be using it quite a bit. So that's the story behind the review. Now, just to be clear, the people at Zhiyun have sent me this light for free in return for doing this review. But the deal was I don't have to do a positive review. I can just give an honest review of my thoughts about the light. They're not going to see this before I put it up on YouTube. So it's going to be an authentic review, giving you my thoughts about this unit, and also some of my samples, because this is something that I can see myself using quite a bit in the future. Not all the time, but for certain kinds of photography I think it's going to come in really handy. So with all that said, let's have a look at my thoughts on it's a bit of a mouthful, the FIVERAY M20C Filll Light Combo from Zhiyun. Okay, let's take a look at what you'll get when you unpack your M20C light for the first time. You've got the unit itself, of course, and it might seem fairly straightforward at first, but there is more to this than meets the eye. And you also get a nice little pouch to store and carry it in, and you get a USB-C cable. The light charges by USB-C, so they've thrown this in to give you that to charge it with, although most people these days have plenty of those cables around their house anyway. So let's all put this aside, because this is what you've really come to see. And as I said, there's a bit more to this than meets the eye. It actually comes in 5 pieces. So I'm just going to real quick disassemble it, and then I'll put it back together piece by piece so you can see what all the different parts of this unit are about. Okay, now that I've pulled the whole thing apart, I'm going to put it back together piece by piece so you can see what all the different parts of this unit are about. And to begin with, of course, we've got the light itself. It's fairly small, it fits in the palm of my hand. It is surprisingly powerful for such a small portable light. It's the first time I've had a light this small that can actually make even a small difference in daylight. Yeah, that's the unit itself. It's quite small. It's fairly thick though, it's a few centimetres thick. That's partly because of the big solid battery unit which is built into it at the bottom, but also there's a fan built in, so this helps to keep it cool when you're using it for longer periods. So when you turn the light on, you'll see the light come on, and then fairly quickly the fan comes on as well. Apart from that, it's pretty straightforward. You've got the 2 different control dials. One turns it on and off and lets you select different functions, and then the other one selects different values for each function. And at the top you've got the USB-C slot for charging. As I showed you, it comes with a USB-C cable included. So that's the light itself, and you could just carry this around as a handheld light if you wanted to, but let's start putting these pieces back together. Okay, so this is a little holder unit that fits onto it, and this will encase the light nice and firmly. It clips very firmly into place. And now you've got at the bottom of the holder unit a cold shoe attachment, so that you can slot this into the top of your camera where your flash might go, so that you've got something nice and firmly attached. It's got a little wheel that tightens into place to make sure that it'll stay on firmly. In addition to that, you've also got 3 other cold shoe attachments on the other 3 sides. So if you're attaching other accessories to your photography kit, you can attach this to the camera and then attach other pieces to this as well. So Then you've got your light, you've got your holder unit, and then you've got a couple of different filter options. And these snap together really tightly with magnets. The first one is a diffusion filter, which obviously will spread the light. You've got to make sure you put it on the right way around, but that'll snap into place really firmly. Now, I can get that off, but I've got to pull fairly hard. It's not going to come off by accident. The magnets are tiny, but they're very strong, so they hold into place really nicely. So you've got your diffuser. You've also got a honeycomb filter, which will concentrate the light and make sure it shines in more of a straight ahead direction rather than diffusing it. And that also snaps into place with a magnet. So you can choose to diffuse the light or to concentrate the light, depending on which filter you choose. And then you've also got your gates, which also attach with a magnet. And I put that on upside down, not good for branding. There we go. And this will allow you to shape the light. So it's a nice little compact unit that all fits together. It's easily pulled apart if you want to take off one filter or another, but it's also very easy to put back together. And when you want to pack it all away, you can just put this on and the whole thing travels as just one nice neat little compact unit. So it's all very handy to put in that little pouch and carry with you when you're on the road. Okay, I'm not much of an instructions guy. I prefer just to figure things out for myself, and I've found that the M20C light is actually pretty straightforward and user-friendly. There's the two dials that I mentioned, and they control everything. On the left, you've got your on, off and mode dial. To turn the light on, I give it a quick press, followed by a 2-second press, and it comes on. And you probably saw there the fan kicked into gear 2. Because I've been using the light a bit, obviously that kicks in to prevent things overheating. Now at the top I've got the dimmer, and then below I've got my warmth adjustment, and I can choose between those just by turning the mode dial. So with the dimmer here, I can grab the dial on the right and I can turn the brightness down, or I can turn it back up. And then if I go down to the next one, this is where I can select my warmth. So there's actually a little Kelvin number there to help guide me, but if I turn it to the left, it'll warm the light up. And if I turn it to the right, it'll go to a cooler white. So those are the settings I'm by and large going to be using when I use the light. But just to run you through some of the other features, it's all done through these two dials. This is our different colours. There's dimness and hue here. So if I go down to hue and I turn this, it'll take you through the full range of different colours that are available. We've gone from pink and purple there to blue, moving towards green now. So a whole range of different special effect colours available to you. If we come in here, this is your RGB section. We get into the special effects. That one's currently set to lightning, and I can choose the different effects now by turning this dial. A little bit of figuring out to do, but it's none of this has been difficult. Twiddle the dials a couple of times and you can usually figure things out pretty quickly. And I just keep on pressing that mode dial through the different effects until I take me back to where I started. And then finally, if I want to turn it off, it's just a matter of pressing the on-off button, holding it down for a couple of seconds, and that's the end of the demonstration. So I just want to give you a real quick look at the difference between the diffusion filter and the honeycomb filter for people who maybe are not used to working with lights like this, and I have to admit that until very recently I was one of them. The diffusion filter is designed to soften and spread the light, so it'll soften shadows and produce a more flattering light. It'll also reduce the very bright impact of the light up to a point. So the diffusion filter is there to really soften the light. The honeycomb filter does the opposite. It's designed to point the light in a more straight ahead direction. So rather than spreading the light and softening it, it will concentrate it more effectively. So if you need to make sure your light is concentrated on a very confined area, the honeycomb filter is the better one of the two. So two quite different filters for two quite different purposes, and all depending on what sort of photography you're aiming for. Okay, I just want to run real quick through some of the creative effects that are available on the light. I can't say I've used them all, and in my real photography I can't say I ever would use quite a few of these, but videographers would probably find a lot of use for some of these effects. So here's just the basic light where I can control the warmth and the brightness, and that's how I'll be using this light most of all. But if I run through, we can go into here the different colour effects, and I can change the brightness, and also if I work that one down to here I can change the colours, and you've got a whole range of colours available to you. So again, for some photography, for some special effects, and I'm sure for video as well, a lot of people would find a good use for that. There's another one where you can actually separate the RG and B brightnesses and hues. So I'm not really going to get into that because I haven't used anything like that before, and if I say too much I probably won't make much sense. But you do have a channel there that is for RGB control. Then we get into some special effects, and if I work my way through it, what have we got here? There's disco, there's police car, there's various different pulse options, there's a strobe, there's lightning, and there's plenty more as well. So I'm not going to go through them all, but again, just to give you a sense of what creative possibilities might be available with this unit. And then I'm just going to take the camera back to where I started, because for me it's essentially going to be a matter of choosing my brightness, if I work my way down here, choosing my warmth, and that will be by and large how I use the light for my occasional portrait and macro photography. Okay, well there's a very scary, very artificial lightning storm headed my way, so I think it's time to wrap up this part of the video. I'm going to finish now with some sample photos taken using the Zhiyun M20C light, and in particular I'll be doing some macro photos taken on the Panasonic Lumix G9 Mark II, and also some portrait photos taken on the Panasonic Lumix S5 Mark II. Now my subscribers I know are often interested in seeing camera settings, so for each photograph I'll put up the settings I've used for your interest. And for people who just came to see what this light's all about, well I hope you learned what you came for. And there's my quick little introduction to the Zhiyun FIVERAY M20C Filll Light Combo. Okay, you've seen how easy it is to use. Now it's time to put the M20C to the test. You'll see in among this screen grab of specs from the Zhiyun website, this is a 20 watt light with a maximum luminance of 1950 lux and a runtime of up to 40 minutes running at 100% on a fully charged battery. That's all well and good, but I need to see how it performs in the real world. As I mentioned, I've done that over the past few weeks with a bit of macro and portrait photography. For macro, the power of the light was never going to be an issue. The main challenge is the angle of the light. It became clear very quickly that mounting it directly on the camera wasn't an option, because shooting at very close range, it's simply going to shine above the subject and not onto it. So I went in search of a couple of gadgets to give me more directional control. These made the light much more practical for macro photography, and when all else failed I even resorted to putting the camera on a tripod and waving the light around in my left hand to get into the best position. It's not ideal, but it is doable, and with the light correctly positioned, it performed exactly as I expected it to. I'm still experimenting with the Honeycomb and Diffusion filters for sharper and softer looks, and I haven't really settled on a preference at this stage. In the future I'll keep using both, and I expect one will always work better than the other, depending on the subject. I tend to lose track of time when shooting macro, and the battery life ran short once or twice, so now I always make sure it's fully charged before an outing. And since it can take a while to find a subject and get the camera in position, I'm careful not to leave it running in between subjects. Instead I try to line up the angle and get the focus sorted, and turn the light on only when I'm ready to start shooting. And now moving on to portraits, and with a big thank you to my friend Gemma, this was where I really got the chance to test the power of the light. Here I'm shooting with the full-frame Lumix S5 Mark II using the Lumix S85mm lens, so most of the time I'm at least a few meters away from the subject, and if I have the light mounted on the camera it needs to be effective from that sort of distance. I've tried other handheld lights in the past and they were pretty much useless at anything over a meter away,
and that makes them impractical for most kinds of portrait shooting. Well, I'm happy to report that it did a great job of illuminating my subject Gemma at our evening shoot. In the beginning I had the light mounted on the camera, and as you can see we also took some behind the scenes shots so you can really see how far away I was from my subject. I used the Honeycomb filter for these shots, and as you can see it did a really nice job with Gemma nicely illuminated, even from several meters away. Next we mixed things up a bit with the light away from the camera and mounted on a tripod. And by the way, I forgot to mention that the cold shoe on the holder unit has a handy tripod thread at the bottom, so it can mount onto any tripod with no need for extra attachments. At this point I was more confident in the power of the light, so I used the diffusion filter to soften the shadows a bit. I have to say I'm really happy with the results, and I'll definitely be using the M20C in the future. Not for full daylight shooting, but for anything indoors or after sunset it's going to be a real asset for my portrait work. I'm also happy to say we took a couple of 100 photos and a couple of short video clips over about an hour, only switching it off when we moved from one location to another, and the battery was still running when we finished our shoot. I really didn't have high hopes for such a powerful light with an internal fan running off the same battery, but all in all it passed that test with flying colours. So here's my final word on the M20C Filll Light, and I think you can already tell I'm impressed. It's far more powerful than I had any right to expect from a light I can hold in the palm of my hand. In full daylight it won't do much more than lighten the shadows, but in low light it really comes into its own. Like any new bit of gear, I'm going to need a bit more time with it to really get the best out of it, but I can already see it will be a big asset to my macro and portrait work. It's also wonderfully versatile with all those colour options and 16 special effects settings, so there's plenty more for me yet to discover. I do want to thank the people at Zhiyun for giving me the chance to review the FIVERAY M20C Combo, and I'll be more than happy to recommend it for anyone looking for a powerful but very portable lighting solution. I'm Andrew Goodall, this is Nature's Image Photography, thanks for watching.